Hi everyone, it's Carrie. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of Embossed Resist, and I have discovered a new found favorite with some distress inks whenever I do in winter sky scenes or whatever. So I just wanted to show you how I put this card together. So I'm going to start off by using a piece of Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock, and I'm using this background stamp from Hero Arts called Hand Drawn Snowflakes. This is probably going to be one of my favorites this year whenever I make backgrounds, especially obviously winter backgrounds. It is so, I don't know what about it is that's so different about this background that I just love from other snowflake backgrounds. But I don't know if it's just the simplicity or what, but I just love it, and it really is going to be a go-to. So I'm prepping my cardstock here with my powder tool, and I'm just making sure that I get enough powder on there so whenever I apply my embossing powder all over this background, I won't have stray embossing powder sticking to where I don't want it. Although, even though, you know, this background it probably wouldn't matter too much anyway. But I'm taking my Versamark ink here. This is a clear sticky ink, and I am placing that all over the background. Now, obviously, the cardstock is only cut to a standard size card, which is A2, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But I wanted to make sure that I did go ahead and ink this up all the way, just to be on the safe side. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out where I want to go and place this down. So I've gone ahead and placed that down onto my cardstock. And I'm just going to take my fingers here and just run them along all over the cardstock, making sure I get a good impression. Normally, I would just take a piece of scrap paper here, but since this is just coated with Versamark, it's not going to make that big of a deal, and it's not going to get my fingers too inky. You won't make a big of a mess as if you were to have inked this up with regular ink. So I'm just making sure that I get that well covered, and I'm just going to remove that from my stamp, and then it's time to take my white embossing powder here and apply all my embossing powder all over this cardstock. This is my favorite white embossing powder. This is the Hero Arts white, and I make sure that I do keep this on hand. I have tried several white embossing powders, and I find that this one so far is the best that I have found as far as whenever it goes to melt. It's just, you know, really white, pretty white, and it's really smooth too. So I'm just making sure that I get all the embossing powder on there and get all that covered up. And I went ahead and off camera and heat set that. So, because it did take a little bit to heat up my heat tool and heat set that. So I went ahead and did that. And this is the fun part. We're taking 3 different colors of distress ink, and I'm going to be using Blueprint Sketch, Tumbled Glass, and Cracked Pistachio. I'm using the Cracked Pistachio first. This is going to be, I guess, one of my lighter colors, and I absolutely love this color combo together. I was just kind of going through as I was preparing my card today, and kind of figuring out what kind of color combination I wanted to use, and I absolutely love all 3 of these colors together. So I'm going to go ahead and ink all this up and get all this well together. And as I'm adding each different color, I'm making sure that I put all of the colors, you know, I'm making sure that I blend them together with each making sure that they blend together is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going in with Blueprint Sketch now, and you'll notice that I'm overlapping each color to make sure that they do blend, because you don't want, you know, you don't want that harsh line in between colors. So, and this is one of my new favorite blues out of all of the distress inks. I really, really do, because it's in between a bluish, it's like a bluish purple. It's not quite, it's a little bit different from a Chipped Sapphire. Chipped Sapphire is a little bit darker. This is a little bit brighter of a blue, but it has that little purplish hue to it, and that's what I like about it. So I'm going in with Tumbled Glass next and finishing up the rest of this background and just making sure that I get all that blended. and it just makes a great background, and you could easily duplicate all of this. It wouldn't take no time at all, especially since you knew what the colors that you were going to use, and obviously you've got the background all stamped out in one pass. It wouldn't take you a long time to duplicate this if you wanted to do multiples at one time. So you can see how all that turned out and how well blended it all turned out, and I just absolutely love it. It's beautiful. I'm not ready for winter, but if I were to think of winter, I love these colors together. So next we're going to go ahead and I'm going to take this die here from Avery Elle because I wanted a little bit of, I didn't want to leave the cardstock just plain. Whenever I do backgrounds like this, excuse me, whenever I do backgrounds like this, I always want like a decorative or a finished edge to my cardstock, especially with this watercolor cardstock. So I went ahead and took the largest, and now I'm taking the smallest of the of this die. There's two sizes, and so I went ahead and die cut a piece of vellum also while I had my die cut machine out. And so I've gone ahead and done that, and then I'm going to take my cardstock here and just placing that over there, just making sure that's how I want the design to turn out. And next I'm going to work on my sentiment here. I'm taking this stamp set from Lawn Fawn. This is Bannerific. This is one of my first stamp sets that I ever bought from Lawn Fawn. My very first, I've mentioned this in the video, the very first was Say Cheese. And then I think the other one, the next one that I bought was Bannerific. And so I really have gotten a lot of uses out of this stamp set, especially since they've come out with the dies. So I am using Memento flannel ink here. This is a gray ink, and I'm using this in particular because I'm going to be using a Copic marker here in a little bit. And Memento ink, no matter what color, whether it's black or whatever, all of the Memento inks work well with Copic markers. So I've inked, and I didn't want black because I didn't want it to be harsh on this background. So I've gone ahead and inked that up, and now I'm going to take a sentiment from another Lawn Fawn stamp set, Joy to the Woods, and I'm taking the Joyful Wishes sentiment, and I'm placing that onto my block. And if you hear anything in the background, that's my cat just getting on my desk. So if she hears me talking, she's got to be and nosy and everything. So anyway, so I'm inking that up with the same gray ink because again, I didn't want black and I didn't want it to be harsh. Obviously I wanted it to go along with the banner. So I've inked that up, and now I'm going to go ahead and place that and stamp that down onto my banner, getting that lined up and stamping that down. So that turned out really well, so I like that. And then now I'm going to go ahead and take the Copic marker that I mentioned before, and it's like it really does match the Cracked Pistachio Distress Ink color. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go ahead and color my banner here. And I really kind of wanted a little bit lighter color, even though whenever you color with Copics, if you've never done it before, never give up on your color. And what I mean by that is that it starts out darker than what it's going to be whenever it dries. So, but I still wanted, knowing that, I still wanted it to be a little bit softer of a mint color. So I went ahead and filled all of this in. And then once I was done with that, I took my colorless blender marker and went all over that just to make it a little bit softer. And I really like how it turned out. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up coloring this in. And always keep in mind that if you do have Copic markers, the colorless blender, it's not only good for, I guess, more or less making, clearing up mistakes if you color outside the lines or whatever, but it's also good for stuff like this, what I'm doing here, and making colors a little bit softer and a little bit more blended. So I'm going to go ahead and go all over my banner here, and once this dries, it'll be a really nice soft mint color. It really does complement what is going on with the background. So I'm going to go ahead and take my coordinating die for this banner. I'm going to place that onto my cutting machine here. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And then once I'm going to go ahead and I'll pop that out of my cardstock. And then I went ahead and got my card base ready, which is what I always use, which is my favorite white cardstock, the Paper Tray Select the Paper Tray Ink Stamper Select white cardstock. And I'm just going to go ahead and line that up, and I'm just going to go ahead and place my main panel down, just using my tape runner here for that. And this is really a simple, in design, but it also gives a great outcome too. I mean, it really does make a statement. So I've placed that onto my cardstock here, my card panel, and then I'm going to place my vellum onto my main piece here. So I'm lining all of my pieces up, and then I'm going to keep my banner kind of as a guide of where I want to put my adhesive on the back of my banner here. So I just left the banner on there just as a guide to where I knew where it was going to be placed onto the card. So I'm just placing my adhesive down there, and I'm going to place that onto my cardstock on my main panel here. And I love the addition of the vellum. It doesn't take away from the background, but it just, but it gives it just a little bit something extra, a little something extra is on the card, a little, a little bit of whimsy, I guess. So now I went ahead and I cut my banner out as you saw, and then I went ahead and placed some foam adhesive on the back of the banner. And now I'm going to go ahead and add some Wink of Stella, of course, and all over the banner here. And then to finish off, I'm going to go ahead and take some gemstones that were in my stash and just place those in the middle of the little snowflakes there on that where the vellum is, just to give it a little extra something. So that pretty much finishes up the card design for today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any additional questions, please leave me a comment below and I'll be happy to answer them. All the supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video. And for more information, go ahead and visit my blog over at www.kwcarddesign.com. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on my next video. Bye-bye.